All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Sometimes I get so caught up in making sure my English is like perfect, especially when I'm prepping for a big presentation or even just chatting with new people. I totally freeze up,
Yeah.
worrying about every little grammar mistake or if I'm using the right words. It's like my brain just shuts down.
Oh, I totally get that. It's funny. It's almost like we create this mental barrier for ourselves that's bigger than any actual language gap we might have.
Right. It's all about communication,
Yeah.
right? Like if you can get your message across clearly, does it really matter if you make a tiny grammar mistake?
Exactly. The goal isn't to sound like a robot reading from a textbook. It's to connect with people
Hmm.
and share your thoughts and ideas. And English Does made this point so well. Like, remember that example they gave?
You mean the one about he go to school yesterday?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's grammatically incorrect, but you still understand the meaning right away.
For sure. And that's so reassuring. Like even native speakers mess up all the time. Right.
All the time. We say, yeah, we forget words. We start sentences and go in a completely different direction. It's part of what makes human language so fascinating.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what English Dose is saying is that it's okay to make mistakes. The important thing is to keep practicing. And the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
It's like learning an instrument or playing a sport. The more you do it, the smoother it gets. And
Yeah.
you build up this muscle memory.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how kids learn to speak. They don't worry about grammar rules. They just dive right in.
Exactly. They're fearless. They just want to communicate.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of mindset we need to tap into.
So how can our listeners kind of like unlock that inner child and find ways to practice without being so afraid?
Well, English Dose mentions some really cool tools and techniques like shadowing. Have you ever tried that?
Shadowing, I think I've heard of it, but remind me how it works.
So basically, you listen to a native speaker and try to mimic their rhythm and intonation as closely as possible.
So it's like you're their shadow, copying their every move.
Pretty much. It's a fantastic way to improve your pronunciation and fluency.
I bet. And I remember they talked about some AI tools too, right? Like for having practice conversations.
Yes, there are some incredible apps out there that use AI to create these simulated conversations. It's like having a language partner available 24/7, and it's a really low-pressure way to practice.
I love that. And of course, good old-fashioned flashcards can be super helpful too,
Right.
especially for building up your vocabulary.
Definitely flashcards combined with something called spaced repetition. It's a technique where you review words at increasing intervals. It's super effective for moving words from your short-term memory into your long-term memory.
So it's all about finding what works for you and making practice a regular habit. But even with all the practice in the world, we're still going to make mistakes. So how can we reframe those moments and actually learn from them?
I love how English Dose addressed this. They encourage us to view mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities for growth.
Yeah. It's like that example they shared about someone saying, I am agree, instead of simply I agree. It's a chance to learn and refine your understanding.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of getting feedback, whether it's from a teacher, a tutor, a language exchange partner, or even just paying attention to how native speakers correct themselves.
It's true. We can learn so much from those little corrections. And I like how English Dose even suggested writing down those corrected mistakes. It's like turning those stumbles into stepping stones.
Right. So we're practicing, we're learning from our mistakes. What else can we do to boost our confidence?
Well, something that really stood out to me from English Dose was their emphasis on keeping things simple.
Ah, yes. Simplicity. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to sound impressive that we end up using words and grammar that are way too complicated.
Totally. And that's where we can trip ourselves up. And English Dose made this brilliant comparison. They had two ways of asking someone if they're free on a particular day. One was all fancy, like, I wish to inquire whether you have availability on the mentioned date. And the other was just straight to the point. Do you have time on that day?
And which one do you think is more effective?
The simple one, for sure.
Mm.
It's clear, it's confident,
Yep.
and it gets the message across without any confusion.
Exactly. And sometimes less is more.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So we've talked about practice, learning from mistakes, keeping it simple. What else is important to remember as we're on this journey of improving our spoken English?
Well, I think English Dose made a really important point about celebrating our wins.
Yes, every little victory counts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get discouraged and compare ourselves to others,
Right.
but everyone learns at their own pace. So focus on your own progress.
Be proud of every new word you learn, every phrase you master, every conversation you have.
Because every step forward is a step in the right direction.
So let's recap what we've learned today. Ditch the perfectionism, embrace practice, Use mistakes as your teachers. Keep your language clear and concise.
And celebrate every step you take on your English speaking journey.
Great advice. Now here's a final thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. Think about a specific situation where the fear of speaking English has held you back. How can you apply these tips to approach it differently and unlock your confidence?
You have the tools now. It's time to put them into action.
Until next time, keep practicing and keep learning. And remember, every mistake is an opportunity to grow.
That's right. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Bye for now.